Hello everybody, welcome to StraightA. Dawson here, back with another parlay video going into week 3, kind of already in the middle of week 3. Didn't really get around to recording this video till, I guess today's Friday, Saturday's tomorrow. Been a rough week, it's been a tiring week, so we're rolling through it, we're rocking and rolling, it's all we can ask for. Prayers up, live up. Anyway, going to the parlay video, I'm going to keep it short and sweet, well, as short and sweet as I can make things go. Just about logic and kind of how I approached last week's, how I did, and how I approached this week's. Gonna note that a little bit of modification for this week's betting, at least, but we'll kind of go through logic-wise and just show how I did and kind of tell you kind of some things that I'm learning from all this. So, of course, Kansas City at Jacksonville was my same game parlay from last week. It was a very poor game from both teams, so I kind of overestimated the teams in a lot of regards. Chiefs did fine. I mean, obviously Patrick Mahomes got over 301.5 passing yards, so take that as you will. But Trevor Lawrence and Jaguars did not have a good game. It was really, I don't know if it was a more defensive-focused game. I guess it was in a lot of sense, but both teams just seemed very off. So it was taking unders for a lot of these points actually were like really beneficial because a lot of unders hit for this game. I thought Trevor Lawrence would have a more passing game, didn't. Just shows that when you have a good defense, especially after coming off a very good offensive game last week with Colts. Trevor Lawrence kind of just had an off game. Kansas City did not lead by minus 1.5 in the first half, I don't believe. I forgot the exact scoring in the first quarter. But otherwise, the other unders hit. Evan Ingram didn't get a second half touchdown score. Don't think he got any score at all. He was kind of involved, so you know him being involved in that game made a little bit more sense, but he just wasn't able to capitalize into a touchdown. And then Isaiah Pacheco also did not get a touchdown focus that game. More receiver heavy. Travis Kelce also got a touchdown. Kind of surprised by that, but you know, already getting him back into the system. Otherwise, the other ones, the spreads and all that, kind of just something I need to learn, that sometimes even teams are expected to have good games are not going to have the games we expect them to have. Hopefully they do, but obviously not all the way, all the time. I mean, going to the other one, I kind of did all right on this one. I think half and half. Jamar Chase again did not have the bounce back week I thought he was. Joe Burrow did score under the passing yards. DeAndre Swift did score a touchdown, which was awesome to see. Khalil Herbert really wasn't a focus in the run game at all. They're kind of splitting yards with him, and I forgot the other person behind him. But Khalil Herbert still seems the main person, but it was a harder game for the rushing, and the Bears were down most of the game, so they had to go resort to passing. And Justin Fields isn't the best passer anyway, so you know, take that as you will. Calvin Ridley did not score the first touchdown because Jaguars didn't score any touchdowns. Again, kind of a focus there. Maybe I should not put all my eggs in one basket type deal. Didn't realize I had the same game parlay and this parlay go on, so I'm going to learn better for this next time. Indianapolis Colts were winning in the first half. They were winning pretty much the whole game. Giants and Cardinals Giants scored a lot more points than I thought they would, and Amari Cooper did not get the first touchdown in the Cleveland Browns and Pittsburgh Steelers game. He wasn't as involved in the first game again. Well, not for his first game, but like he wasn't involved in this game as much as I thought he would be. Maybe he'll get more involved as the year goes on, but we'll kind of keep an eye on that and see who's getting more and more due as time goes on. So just a mistake I made, but 16-leg parlay, again, kind of a hit-or-miss type week with this. A lot of hits, though. Vikings, of course, covered the spread. Los Angeles Chargers did not win. I shouldn't expect them to hold a lead, even against bad teams. Keep that in mind for future games. Baltimore Ravens and Cincinnati Bengals did score a decent amount of points, so did get just over the over for 46.5. I thought the Chicago Bears would win, but obviously it was a gamble, so they lost there. Seahawks and the Lions did score over those points. They actually had like a really high-scoring game. I was right in the under for Kansas City and Jacksonville. Indianapolis Colts did win money line. Green Bay and Atlanta did have over the points I thought they would. Las Vegas had not covered the spread by any means. That's my mistake for having more credit for them after their Week 1 game against the Broncos. Rams did cover the spread against 49ers, which was a really good call. Cardinals and the Giants, again, Cardinals covered the spread at least. I did not hit the under for New York Jets and Dallas Cowboys. They scored like a little over that, I believe. I think at 40 points exactly. Dang, that sucks. Washington Commanders did cover the spread on Broncos because they won. The Miami Dolphins at New England Patriots did not go over. The points actually was a decently low scoring game. It was 24-17, so take that as you will. New Orleans Saints and Carolina Panthers. New Orleans Saints, of course, won. Cleveland Browns did not win, which is kind of a surprise as well. Nick Chubb, prayers up again for him. So a lot of things I've learned there. Again, the NFL is unexpected, but I really need to be careful when it comes to these games that I think are locks, as in, or like taking these big spreads is what I should. Sorry, not these locks, but like I usually think of the big spreads as like, oh, they're easily able to cover that. It's a lot more likely they will cover it more than they won't. Which I guess is technically true because if you look at the Raiders through the Cardinals, they cover it more times than not in this case. But maybe don't always put your eggs in the basket for that one because sometimes there's going to be blowout games. And simply taking the money line for some of these big teams might be worth it in the long run. So it's just kind of a balancing act of it all. Over under are my favorites, but obviously I gotta learn more about, not learn more, but maybe I need to not just kind of put my eggs in one basket where I think under is a really good betting line, where over actually happens a lot more than I think it will. I just gotta really look at teams that are going to be near the same competitive style, so as in having a good game against each other. So like for example, the Seahawks and Lions are teams that are matched up very well against each other, so they might be more likely to score more points. Baltimore Ravens and Cincinnati Bengals are division rivals. It could be a more defensive focused game. Those are kind of go either way, but Cincinnati Bengals and Ravens could be a big point scorer game. Maybe taking the under for that game wasn't the best idea. It's just some small things like that I gotta learn. Going to this week, I did have 2 parlays, and they both already failed. I did get a little greedy, I think, with this one. I'll be honest, I didn't make these with my most conscious self. I really didn't have time to really sit down and read into the stats and stuff like that. So I kind of just did my gut, and I did not hit either one of these. I still have my same game parlay, and I had an extra $10 bet I could do. So I went ahead and just said, okay, we're going to do a player parlay again, but with that $10 bet. That way I'm still keeping within my budget and still providing some content. So I'm going to go through my process with all. I decided still to not do the 16-leg parlay again, just purely because this is a lot and it was likely not hit anyway, and I'd probably take similar stuff from this anyway. But I took different player parlays for this one, for the second time. So Jared Goff throwing under 267.5. I like that line a lot. I think he's capable of throwing over that, of course. I think he has a couple times already, but I think he's more likely in that low 240 kind of range. Desmond Ridder over 188.5 yards. That was kind of surprising line for him. I know he had a bad game where he threw under that, 147 I believe. But I think it's much more likely that he'll hit an over in that line. So I like that a lot. I thought Darren Waller would get into a really tough game with the 49ers. I thought they would have to rely on him a little bit against the 49ers defense. And I was right to some extent. It's just that the 49ers are really good. So who would have thought that maybe betting on the Giants to get a touchdown was a bad mistake. So that's what kind of screwed me over this game. I did debate on this one, but I thought, okay, you know what? It's a less likely one. Let me put it in, stuff like that. Amari Cooper, again, I'm putting my eggs in the basket. I know I just said that maybe wait for him to get into the game again. He is due against Tennessee Titans, who I think this game is expected to be run heavy. I think that you can get a sneaky little score in. I think Amari Cooper is one of those sneaky kind of touchdown scorers. I think Josh Allen's going to have a good game against Washington Commanders. I think he's at least going to score 2 touchdowns. Maybe not more, but I think he's going to do well with that. The under for Chiefs total points against the Bears, I think once they get to a point that they're not going to absolutely destroy them. I think it's going to be like a 27-10 game. I think it's going to be like a 2-3 scored game, but like close to that like lower scoring, because I don't think the Bears have the capability of scoring a whole lot against Kansas City Chiefs. And at some point, I think the Kansas City Chiefs will just not score. I think the defense from the 49ers and Cowboys kind of lead them to scoring a lot more, but even you see the 49ers who destroy the Giants, and they had a good game. I guess that was a little bit over 30 last week. I forgot against who on top of my head. But they're still within that 30-point range. I feel like Kansas City is kind of that team who they can easily score 30 points, 30.5 points. But I think against the Bears, they might just run the ball a little bit more, not just risk things later in the game. I feel like that's kind of Andy Reid, reading into him and his history. Tony Pollard getting the first touchdown. I think it's going to be, again, a run-heavy game. And most touchdown scores happen with a running back. And so I decided to go Dallas Cowboys, getting the first touchdown score with Tony Pollard, eventually kind of punching into a bad defensive line from the Cardinals. If I did not believe in the Cardinals in one end, it'd be their defensive line and the run game, so went with them. Then I said the Pittsburgh Steelers would be leading by half, and that A.J. Brown finally gets heavily involved in the passing game and get a touchdown in that game. So that was actually a pretty good one, I thought. Again, it was a lower parlay score. I think it was only 4,000, I think, for that total one. I can't remember exactly what the total payout was for that. My thought process for these, of course, I thought New York Giants, that 10.5 spread is a lot. Now, I know I said earlier I don't like covering these, but like Giants proved last week they don't just get destroyed all the time. 49ers are a good team, but maybe they can show something. That was my false hope in the Giants, whatever. I didn't think they'd get absolutely destroyed, but they did. 10.5 is usually an easier spread to cover, and I thought the Giants would have some capability of keeping up in terms of like just kind of eking out the 10.5 just barely, but I was obviously wrong. I'll take that loss in stride. 10.5 is a really hard spread not to take. So tomato, but yeah, I'll take the L there because obviously the 10.5 spread was there for a reason. Since Titans and Cleveland Browns, I expect that to be a low-scoring game, a run-heavy game, and there's going to be slower scoring, really grindy. Minnesota Vikings, I think are going to win against Chargers. I think a lot of people are riding the Chargers much there. I think the Vikings are going to finally solidify, like, hey, we're going to make the season something at least. I think the Bills should cover the Commanders spread pretty decently well. I think it's going to be about a 2-score game, about 10 points probably. Commanders have been good, but I think they need a wake-up call, and I think the Bills will give them a minor wake-up call with that. Indianapolis Colts covering the spread against the Ravens, covering the spread against the Ravens, who plus 8.5. I think the Colts are sneaky good, like in terms of like a sneaky good matchup for the Ravens. Now this is probably assuming that Anthony Richardson plays, but even if not, I think it's Gardner Minshew that's behind him. Gardner Minshew is fully capable of keeping up with a good defense. An offensive line for the Colts is good, mostly in the run game, and I don't think the run game is going to be a factor here. So I think it's going to be a lot with either Anthony Richardson, if he plays, being a threat on the scramble as well as just the short passes. And so I think they're able to kind of cover that spread. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game. I'm not confident in saying that because they are two kind of runny quarterbacks. So I feel like it's going to be a lot of pressure, a lot of incomplete passes. And I think that the Colts will kind of eke by like a plus, like a one score down type game. Ravens are good, don't get me wrong, but they keep the games kind of close and kind of competitive a lot of times. So I like the plus 8.5 spread on that game. The over for Falcons and Detroit, I do like that game against teams that are similarly matched up and could score a lot. The one thing that makes me a little nervous is the Falcons run game in terms of like when a team is really good at the run, they usually kind of are in that 24-27 range of points. They don't really get into the passing like 30-plus yards or 30-plus points. But I think Detroit Lions can kind of carry that a little bit more. Denver Broncos, So eventually I'd take money lines, and there's not a whole lot of money lines that weren't like a bad odds or like good odds. I mean, like minus 490 or stuff like that, or odds that would be against me in terms of like they wouldn't add a whole lot for me. And I do believe that the Broncos are finally going to win the game against the Miami Dolphins, purely because I think everybody at this point have just given up and said, okay, they've matched up against two bad teams, they lost both those games, whatever, easy victory for whoever they face in week 3. And I think it's when everybody gets psyched out and says, oh, the Broncos actually... There you go. I will see you guys in a second, actually. And we're back. I'm talking about the Broncos psyching people out finally. I think they're a team that really just people don't believe in, and then all of a sudden, people are like, what the heck? How can you predict the Broncos? I feel like that's going to be the Broncos season, is like, how can we even predict the Broncos? And that's also me saying as a fan, and plus the odds were some of the better ones for taking money line. In actual statistics-wise, I think the Broncos' defensive line has some struggles, but I don't think the Miami Dolphins rely on the run game. And Raheem Mostert will have a good day, I'm sure. But I think that the Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle team, they kind of have some minor tweaks in their body in terms of like Jalen Waddle might not play because of that concussion. I think Tyreek Hill had a minor like leg thing or whatever. I think he'll play. Honestly, Jalen Waddle might play too. But I feel like the secondary for the Broncos can kind of minimize the damage they're able to exert. And I like the Miami defense, but I think the Denver Broncos can prove that they can play against decent defenses. And I think the Dolphins are a step up from the last two, Raiders and Commanders. And I think Russell can kind of keep up points-wise because I think it kind of minimizes the threat. Plus, I think the run game will finally start getting more and more improved as the season goes on. So I decided, put my eggs in my basket and say Denver Broncos win. New England Patriots covering the spread against New York Jets. I believe they're going to win. And I think they're going to win, not handily, but I think it's going to be like a 4-point game. So it's a more risky spread, but I like this spread. Green Bay Packers, New Orleans Saints. I think the Green Bay Packers, minus 1.5 seems really close. Granted, it could be close, but I think if this game's going to happen, it's not going to be a really, really close game. I think it's going to be like a couple, 3, 4, 5 point game. So, Houston Texans and the Jacksonville Jaguars, under 44.5. I think Jacksonville will kind of get back with their offense a little bit. But again, I don't see much points-wise happening. This was a really up in the air thing for me because I think Jacksonville will get that 21-point range. I think Houston Texans will get like a touchdown or two and kind of get in that 13 to 14-point range, and then that kind of leads me to just under the 44.5. So this one's a little bit riskier because I think both are very, very capable of having good offenses, but also the defenses are a little bit on the better side in terms of their expectations, I guess. I think the Houston defense is young but scary, and Jacksonville has a sneaky good defense. Carolina and Seahawks, I think they're going to have a good game. I think Bryce Young's going to come out a little bit, and Seattle's going to score a few points, and then finally I think Panthers will kind of keep up for a little bit until finally dithering off. So, again, closer game of closer matched up teams. Chicago Bears and Kansas City Chiefs are under 48.5. Genuinely believe this will not be a high-scoring game. Again, I think you see it with like Giants and the 49ers, who are very mismatched teams. 42 points total in that game. Bears and Kansas City, I feel like, are very similar. I think maybe Chicago can do a little bit better than Giants, and then Kansas City could do a little bit worse than the 49ers, so that's where I'm even more confident about the under here. Dallas Cowboys, Arizona Cardinals. Again, I think the Arizona Cardinals will put up a better fight than people think, but not much better because Dallas Cowboys defense is dang good. But under 42.5 seemed like a decent spread there, or decent over-under, so I decided to go under on this one. Pittsburgh Steelers, Eagles, and Rams money line. Eventually I figured out, I need to make some money lines. So Steelers, again, plus 120 odds helps me a little bit in that regard. I do think the Steelers will win, and Rams as well are not favorites in this, but I think they're going to win. Then I finally had to bite the bullet and say, okay, I'm going to take the Eagles. I think they're an easy win, so take that as you will. Those are all my settled bets. Of course, all that is pretty much mute at this point, so I'm kind of learning as these go. But I do have an 8-leg parlay and the same game parlay. The game I chose this week was Los Angeles Chargers at Vikings. I think it's going to be an interesting game to watch. I'm going to watch it very closely. But actually, speaking of which, like I said, really wasn't thinking this week when it comes to my lessons learned. So I actually do have some overlap. And I made this 8-leg parlay very easy. Not very easy, but I didn't read too much into it. I just kind of said, okay, any touchdown score, first half winners. I think I went for like a first touchdown score. No, I didn't. Oh, nice. Wow. Oh, that's right, because I had a $10 bet, so I decided to go not less risky, but more realistic than my normal one. So Minnesota winning in the first half. I think they will. I think they'll actually win pretty handily in the first half. I think it'll be closer, but I think they will win. Atlanta Falcons, same there. I think they're going to lead the Detroit Lions, and then Detroit Lions will come back to win. Stephon Diggs, thinking touchdown against Washington Commanders, pretty safe. I think Josh Allen will have a good day. Breece Hall, I think, will finally kind of burst through for a good touchdown. It's kind of more of a wishful thinking thing, but he's been more involved as the week's gone on, so hopeful. Jerry Jeudy, kind of same thing there. I think Denver Broncos had to bring out their best, and I think hopefully Jerry Jeudy kind of gets back into it, gets a touchdown score. And DK Metcalf is always a staple for the Seattle Seahawks. I think it's going to be a higher score game. Put him against the Carolina Panthers. I think he's going to get a touchdown there. Because I think he also matches up well with the Carolina secondary, just because of how quick and tall that guy is. Brandon Cooks, I think he's finally going to also come in and be like, hey, I'm kind of in this offense too, and show people like, hey, I'm a good second wide receiver for this team, and get a score against Arizona Cardinals early on. Or later on, one of the two. Because, again, it's going to be like a scare for a second, and then, second quarter goes around, and the Cowboys absolutely destroy them. Or something along those lines. And finally, Cole Kmet, I think, is sneaky good. Again, if Chicago wants to do something, Justin Fields loves playing with Cole Kmet. And I think while Kansas City has a good defense, I think that the Chicago Bears are able to use Cole Kmet in that way to get him a touchdown. So, less risky in terms of, I'm not just going first touchdown score, stuff like that. So it's very straight and to the point. Anytime touchdown scores, like all these players, I think all of them have a good chance of doing it. The ones I'm most nervous about is Brandon Cooks and Breece Hall, of course. I think the other ones are pretty safe. Obviously, I think Cole Kmet's odds are way lower than they should be. So take that as you will. And then finally, my same game parlay for the Vikings and Chargers. And I'll be honest, looking back at this, I'm kind of crazy for putting this. Again, I was kind of mind-numbingly doing this week, so I'm kind of learning my lesson. Maybe on my off weeks, let's go easier on the odds. Let's maybe not just go for my normal odds or try to reach them. The odds for this week are $644. So you would think okay, that's pretty likely. But all this stuff I feel not very confident in. Justin Jefferson, I think, should get a touchdown. I put this very Justin Jefferson heavy, by the way. Justin Jefferson will get a touchdown, 100%. He has to eventually, because I don't think he's gotten a touchdown this whole season yet, and I think it's the reason why I put this down. Kirk Cousins, 293.5. Again, it's aggressive. So I was like, that's an easy under for me. Justin Herbert, very aggressive as well. I think Minnesota's defense is again, this could be more of a run heavy team. And if he does get those yards, it's going to be through Austin Eckler getting the pass game. Jordan Addison over 49.5 yards. That's the one I'm really scared of. Like, I don't know why I decided to go with that. Like, not the fact I went over for it. The fact I went with it at all makes me a little bit worried. Like, Jordan Addison's good, but like, can he really get 49.5 yards if I predict Justin Jefferson getting some touchdowns? A little bit worried. Chargers, I don't think are going to get 27.5 points. I think it's really aggressive for the team, and I think it's going to be a good game, but I think it's pretty aggressive for them to get 27.5 total points. Kirk Cousins will get a passing touchdown because, again, Justin Jefferson, I think he's going to get a touchdown. The total points in the first half, 26.5, feels like a very aggressive first half thing, but then again, looking at it now, I'm like, that's actually quite likely. All it has to be is 14-14, I'm done. So, Justin Jefferson getting the first half touchdown score, it just feels like a good story in the middle, like while halftime. It's like Justin Jefferson ends the first half with a touchdown, blah, blah, blah. And the less likely one is the Justin Jefferson getting 2 score touchdowns. I think he's going to get 2 touchdowns. I don't know why. It just feels like if he's going to do it against a team, the Chargers feel like a team that he can do it against. Finally, Joshua Kelly getting a first team touchdown scored. So, like, he is going to be the first one on the Chargers to get a touchdown score. And I feel like they're just involving him more and more, and eventually they're going to get to the goal line. And if they get to the goal line, Joshua Kelly's getting that touchdown, 100%, unless they just don't get the touchdown at all. I don't think Eckler will get that first touchdown, and maybe it could be a passing. Of course, if it's a long pass, I can't really do much about that. But I do think that Joshua Kelly can get involved. And again, I think they're going to rely more on the run game against Minnesota, just because I think Minnesota does have a good run defense, but I think they also want to try to break through with that. Just because, again, Chargers are more run heavy, while the receivers are really explosive. They have to be explosive in a play, and it's hard for them to be consistently explosive, and I think Minnesota has a decent secondary that might give them some trouble. So kind of take that as you will. Move on. And honestly, I'm trying to justify Joshua Kelly getting the first touchdown score. Be honest, I probably would have put Mike Williams or Keenan Allen more so, but I think it's because both of them had good games explosively before that I'm like, maybe I won't do that, because I don't like doing, especially early on when there's such a small sample size. Like when a player has a really explosive game, I'm like, okay. But realistically, they're only getting like 12 touchdowns in a year, like around that mark. If they've already got 2, there's still a lot of games left. Like, what's the likelihood they're really going to get a touchdown here? So I was like, okay, Joshua Kelly really hadn't had a breakout game. He kind of had it with the first week when he was splitting touches, but he hasn't had his own game yet. And Eckler may be out. If he's not out, then they're going to split touches again, and I'll feel good about Joshua Kelly. But that's kind of my logic, and I kind of did that really quick. Again, I don't have as much energy right now. I'm kind of just zapped a little bit. Got class tomorrow, so fun times I had. But, we're going to go to the ESPN Eliminator Challenge. I had 15 picks going into week 2. I lost 5 of them. Let's see if I can actually remember who I lost those to. Heck, what the fuck? Okay, well, all right, that's weird. That was super weird. All right, yeah, I lost it to the Browns because I thought they were an easy win. Apparently not. Broncos were a riskier pick, so take that as you will. Lions lost their game. I thought that was the easier pick too. And Chargers, of course, got 2 of my picks, and they lost their game to the Titans, which I thought was, kind of bullcrap in that regard. Anyway, going to this week, I had 10 picks left. I put one of them on the 49ers because I thought that was an easy one. I put basically all 10 of these are different. At this point, I'm pretty much going to do all different until the final 5 or something like that, and we'll go from there. Once we get more into the thought process ones, this segment will either become longer or shorter depending on how the time goes. Cowboys, I think, are also easy victory. Chiefs, easy victory. Jaguars, easy victory. Eagles, easy victory. I feel like those 5 should all hit pretty easily. The Browns are a riskier pick just because of their track record, and they could give it away to the Titans. Wait, the Titans is who they're playing, right? I'm not crazy. Crazy, I was crazy once. I believe they're playing the Titans, right? Trying to find it, guys. Probably won't cut this out. Maybe I will. Yeah, Tennessee Titans right there, top. There you go. Again, it feels like a game they should win, but never know. Ravens as well. Feels like they should still eke out the victory, even though I think they're going to get some trouble from it. I still feel like the Ravens winning is a good shot there. The Seahawks, also riskier game for me to really bet on them, but I feel confident enough that the Seahawks can kind of have enough momentum going that they can get the win. Patriots, divisional game, also didn't feel too confident in, but I decided to go with them in the end because I think their defense is likely to hold off against the Jets, and I think the Bill Belichick still has Zach Wilson's number. And then finally the Bills getting a victory. Who are they playing again this week? Let's actually look. Bills are playing the Washington Commanders. feels pretty confident in that regard as well. So some very iffy ones near the end, but I think so the first half is pretty good. My picks in order would be the 49ers, the Cowboys, the Chiefs, the Jaguars, the Eagles, then the Browns and the Ravens, then the Seahawks and the Patriots, and then the Bills. In that order, in the top 10, I would go with that. Again, the Bills could... The reason why I had the Bills last, by the way, is because I feel like the Commanders are kind of sneaky good, and I'm not willing to really admit that totally yet, but they could actually get a victory here, and I'm like kind of wary about that. So we'll see about that. The Patriots, of course, divisional game. Seahawks, it could be a closer, high-scoring game, so you never know with those things. Ravens, kind of closer defensive game. Never know with those kind of things, but I still feel more likely about the Ravens. And then the Tennessee Titans kind of made me more nervous about picking against them now, but I feel like the Browns should still eke out the victory. Meanwhile, the other 5 are pretty justified, I think. So, anyway, that's it for me this week, or this game at least until the recap, I think. Yeah, so I do the... No, I guess you'll see me on Monday for the series. I actually do have a plan for that. It's a longer kind of drawn-out process when it comes to the Monday night videos. What I want that to be. I don't know if I can make it the series. I want to make a weekly series, but because it takes a lot of work to set up. But once I get set up, maybe it'll be better. We'll see. But I'm actually kind of excited because it's a little bit different from the freeform content we do here. And maybe there's some other ideas that are kind of going around with some of the boys that they want to do a series that's more related to something else rather than just kind of talking about like podcast style. So it's actually kind of exciting. So Monday series should be a little bit more fun. Tuesday you'll still get the recap of the week, and so I'm kind of excited to see all that. But yeah, I'm excited for this week's games. I think we're really getting into the NFL season. I'm really enjoying the kind of camaraderie I'm getting from the boys and seeing everything. Even when I'm out and about, getting the games on my phone, game checking it. And, as much as I don't, I'm not a big fantasy guru, I'm actually enjoying fantasy a little bit. Because both of them are kind of interesting to me. Because one of my leagues is a 12-man league that I lost Nick Chubb in. I don't have my number 1 running back anymore. I believe he was my 2nd-round pick. I don't think he was my first. But I'm kind of nervous in that regard because I'm like, now I've got to change it up a little bit. Now I got to figure out waiver wires. Now I got to figure out either trades or just kind of stick to my guns and go through the season, just hope for the best and kind of rely on people that you aren't normally used to relying. So I don't have these major hitters. CeeDee Lamb's my number 1 guy, and I got Josh Allen, which helps a lot. But otherwise, I got some decent receivers and some like kind of decent running backs if they actually play and actually do what they need to do. And then my other league's a little bit more high-powered, and I'm actually feeling like a juggernaut there. Even though I lost a game, I lost a game by a point thanks to Pat Freiermuth not catching 2 passes in that whole freaking game. So I'm feeling kind of vulnerable in that, but it's also a loser bet league, so I'm kind of a little fun times with all this. So I'm actually having a lot of fun with this season so far. The parlays are helping a lot just because I normally get to kind of process them, and this content creation has been awesome. I've actually felt motivated to make these videos, and I've loved making the thumbnails, which I'm trying to get better and better at over time. My time is a little bit limited, of course, with all of this, but I love getting in front of this camera. I feel like I can just kind of express and talk about things I like, and so I'm really loving this all, and I hope you guys are enjoying it too, whoever's tuning in and watching, and of course hanging out with the boys. It gives me an excuse every week to find, and talk to them all, and I just love it. I'm loving this season. I'm loving everything about it, but thank you guys for watching, and I'll say StraightA Dawson is out. Thank you guys.